The massive alien warships appeared from nowhere, filling the dark space around Earth like hungry metal sharks. Admiral Vexnari stood tall on his command bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the small blue planet grow bigger on his screens. His red eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Begin the fear protocol," he ordered his crew. "Show them our full power." 300 warships moved into perfect attack lines. Each ship was bigger than Earth's largest cities. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy, all pointed at the helpless planet below. This same sight had made 1,000 other worlds surrender without a fight. The Admiral smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Send the message." Deep underground in Seoul, Park Ji-ho sat in a quiet bunker filled with glowing computers. He was a thin man with calm eyes, wearing a simple gray uniform. When the alien message appeared on his screen, he read it without any fear on his face. "People of Earth," the message said, "you will surrender now, or we will destroy your world. You have 1 hour to decide." The technicians around Ji-ho looked worried, but he remained perfectly still. On his screens he could see readings from all over Earth. No armies were moving. No missiles were being prepared. No panic in the streets. Everything was strangely quiet. "What should we tell them, Director?" asked his assistant, a young woman named Kim Sora. Ji-ho typed a short reply with steady fingers. "Send this message to their fleet." The words appeared on Admiral Vexnari's screen just minutes later. "We have been waiting for you." The Admiral's confident smile faded. In 30 years of conquering planets, he had never received such a calm response. Usually worlds either begged for mercy or sent desperate threats. But this was different. This felt wrong. "Sir," called out his sensor officer, a nervous creature with too many eyes. "I am detecting strange energy patterns from the planet." "What kind of patterns?" "They keep changing, sir. The readings appear and then disappear. It is like something is there one moment and gone the next." Admiral Vexnari studied his battle screens. Earth showed no space fleets, no defense stations, no visible weapons of any kind. The planet looked completely defenseless. But his warrior instincts, learned through decades of battles, were screaming danger warnings he could not understand. "Move closer," he commanded. "Prepare to destroy their major cities." As the alien fleet drifted toward Earth, stranger things began happening. Their advanced sensors detected movement in empty space. Energy readings jumped up and down like crazy. Several bridge crews reported seeing impossible things through their viewports. Dark shapes moving in the vacuum where nothing could survive. Shadows that seemed to dance between the stars. On the flagship's bridge, a young officer dropped his scanner with shaking hands. "Admiral, I just saw something move past our hull, but there is nothing there on any of our instruments." "Get control." "Of yourself," Vexnari snapped.
Oh.
But even he felt a chill running down his spine. Back on Earth, Park Ji-ho watched the alien ships approach through his underground cameras. Around him, dozens of screens showed empty cities, vacant streets, and abandoned buildings. But he was not worried. He touched a small device on his wrist and spoke quietly. "Phase 1 is finished," he said. "All our people are safe. Begin Phase 2 now." His voice carried across the planet through hidden communication networks. In response to his words, the last signs of human civilization began to vanish. Streetlights went dark. Traffic signals stopped working. The few remaining cars on the roads simply disappeared. Even the smoke from factory chimneys faded away into nothing. From space, Earth now looked completely empty and dead. Admiral Vexnari felt a deep unease growing in his chest. "Scan again," he ordered. Where did they all go? But his sensors found nothing. No heat signatures from human bodies. No electromagnetic signals from their technology. No radio broadcasts or internet traffic. It was as if millions of humans had simply evaporated into thin air. "This is impossible," muttered his science officer. "Entire populations cannot just vanish." The Admiral clenched his fists. Something was very wrong here, but he could not figure out what. In all his years of conquest, planets had never acted like this. They fought back with weapons, or they surrendered in fear, or they tried to hide. But they never just disappeared. "Sir," his communications officer called out with a trembling voice. "We are receiving another message from the surface." Park Ji-ho's calm face appeared on their main screen. He was sitting in what looked like an empty room, but something about the image seemed strange, like he was not quite solid, not quite real. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral Vexnari," Park said with a slight smile. "Your reputation precedes you. We know about the 1,000 worlds you have conquered, the billions of lives you have taken, but today, things will be different. Surrender now," the Admiral demanded, "or face complete destruction." Park's smile grew wider. "Oh, Admiral, you still do not understand. We are not surrendering, and you cannot destroy us. You see, we stopped being the kind of enemy you know how to fight a very long time ago." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in confused silence. The alien soldiers stepped off their transport ships and into empty cities that felt like graveyards. Colonel Vekmer, a tall creature with green skin and 6 arms, led his team through the streets of Seoul. Their heavy boots made loud echoing sounds on the empty roads. "It's very strange," Vekmer said into his radio. "There are no people anywhere, but everything else is still working normally." The streetlights were on. Cars sat parked neatly along the sidewalks with their engines still warm. Coffee shops had fresh coffee still brewing in their machines. Banks had their computer systems running perfectly. It was like all the humans had simply walked away from their lives just minutes ago. "Command, we have checked 50 buildings," reported another soldier. "No people found anywhere, but their machines are still running." High above them, on the top floor of a tall office building, Kim Min-ho watched the alien soldiers through the window. But Min-ho was not quite normal anymore. His body flickered like a broken television. Sometimes he looked solid and real. Other times he became see-through like a ghost. He could choose to be visible or invisible whenever he wanted. Beside him stood Lee Suman, a young woman who existed in the same strange way. She was sometimes there and sometimes not there, shifting between being real and being like air. "Look." At them searching, Suman whispered in a voice that the aliens could not hear. "They are looking for enemies they can shoot, but we are not that kind of enemy anymore." "Let them look," Minho replied with a small smile. "Soon they will understand what we have become." The alien soldiers set up their main base in the center of downtown Seoul, in what used to be a busy shopping area. They brought in big machines, computers, and weapons. Everything seemed to work fine for the first few hours. Then the problem started. Their radio equipment began making strange noises. Instead of clear voices, the speakers filled with whispers and languages that sounded beautiful, but made no sense. The words seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. "Fix these radios," ordered Colonel Vekmer. "I cannot understand my own soldiers." But the technicians could find nothing wrong with the machines. Their motion sensors, which were supposed to detect any moving thing nearby, began going crazy. The alarms rang constantly, warning that something was moving around their base. But when the soldiers ran to check, they found nothing there. Sergeant Greltic was standing guard outside the base late at night when he heard the first voice. It sounded like singing, soft and gentle, coming from right behind him. He spun around, quickly with his weapon ready, but saw only empty darkness. "Who is there?" he called out in his rough voice. Silence. Then right next to his ear, a woman's voice said clearly, "Hello, Sergeant." Greltek screamed and fired his energy weapon wildly at the empty air. The bright beams passed through nothing and hit the wall behind where the voice had come from. The concrete turned to dust, but there was nobody there to hurt. From her invisible position between the normal world and somewhere else, Yoon Hannah watched the frightened alien soldier and felt satisfied. She could exist in a special state where she was real enough to speak, but not real enough for weapons to hit her. The fear was spreading exactly as planned, all across Earth. The same scary things began happening to the alien invasion force. Soldiers reported seeing shadows that moved by themselves, walking across walls and ceilings like living things. Their equipment broke down for no reason that their engineers could find. Lights went on and off by themselves. Doors opened and closed without anyone touching them. Worst of all, the aliens began to feel like they were being watched all the time. Even when they were alone, they could sense invisible eyes staring at them from the darkness. The alien medical centers quickly filled up with soldiers who were so scared they could not do their jobs anymore. They talked about ghosts, about voices in empty rooms, about feeling cold hands touching them when nobody was there. Admiral Vexnari read reports from his ship and felt more confused than ever. In 30 years of conquering planets, he had never seen anything like this. Humans had not fired a single weapon at his forces, but his own soldiers were becoming too frightened to fight. Meanwhile, Park Ji-ho decided to have some fun. He made himself invisible and walked into his old government office, where several alien officers were looking through his files and documents. They could not see him at all. He existed in a special state that made him impossible for their eyes or machines to detect. He watched them for a few minutes, reading over their shoulders as they tried to understand human writing. Then he moved close to the biggest alien officer and spoke one simple word in Korean. Boo! The aliens screamed like children and ran out of the building as fast as their legs could carry them, leaving all their equipment behind. Park Ji-ho laughed. Quietly, the real fun was just beginning. Soon the invaders would learn that Earth was not defending itself with guns or bombs. Earth was defending itself with fear itself, and fear was much more powerful than any weapon ever built. Admiral Vexnari was getting desperate. The soldiers were scared, his equipment was breaking, and he still had no idea what was happening on Earth. Then his communication officers discovered something impossible. Admiral called out his chief technician, a small creature with purple skin and many eyes. We have found a strange signal. It is not coming through normal radio, or even our quantum communication systems. It is coming from somewhere else entirely. What do you mean somewhere else? It is like the signal exists in a place that is not quite real, sir. We have never seen anything like it. The voice that came through their speakers was calm and clear, speaking perfect alien language with no accent or mistakes. It was Park Ji-ho. This is Director Park Ji-ho of Earth's Defense, the voice said. You are wondering what we are. Let me explain everything to you. Along with his voice came pictures and scientific information that appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. The data showed technology that seemed impossible ways to change the basic building blocks of matter. Methods for moving consciousness from one place to another, machines smaller than atoms that could rebuild anything. 100 years ago, Park continued speaking, we detected your empire growing across the galaxy. We watched how you conquered other worlds, studied your methods and your weapons. We knew you would come to Earth eventually, so we made a choice. The pictures showed what humans had done to themselves. Instead of building bigger guns or stronger ships, they had changed their own bodies and minds. Sumen and you and Hana had volunteered for procedures that let them exist partly in the normal world and partly somewhere else entirely. We kept our thoughts, our feelings, and our humanity, Park explained. But we gained the ability to become like ghosts whenever we choose. We can be solid when we want to touch things, and invisible when we want to hide. Admiral Vexnari listened with growing horror. His chief science officer, a brilliant creature named Colvin, was studying the human data with shaking hands. Admiral Colvin whispered, if this information is true, the humans can do impossible things. They can walk through walls, disappear completely, and change matter just by thinking about it. Our weapons cannot hurt something that is not fully real. How many humans can do this? The Admiral asked. Cole's van checked their population records and went pale. Sir, based on what we know about Earth, possibly all of them. Every single human might have become like this. The Admiral felt cold fear creeping into his heart. Had brought 300 warships to fight an entire species that had turned itself into ghosts. Down on Earth's surface, Cho Hinwoo decided to see how the aliens were handling the news. He made himself invisible and walked right into their main command center. The alien officers could not see him, hear him, or detect him in any way as he moved between them. He listened to their panicked conversations, felt their growing terror, like heat from a fire. With just a thought, he reached into their computer systems with his mind, reading their files and understanding their battle plans. The aliens had no idea that their most secret information was being stolen by someone standing right next to them. "Sir," one alien officer was saying to his commander, "we have tried everything. Sensors detect them, but we cannot see them. Our weapons pass right through them. Some of our soldiers swear they have been touched by invisible hands." "What about our psychic troops?" asked the commander. "They refuse to leave their quarters, sir. They say the humans exist in too many dimensions at once. It hurts their minds to even try to sense them." Cho Hun-woo smiled and decided to have some fun. He reached out with his consciousness and made all the lights in the command center flicker on and off. Aliens jumped and looked around nervously. Then he made their main computer screen show a simple message in their own language: "We are everywhere." The alien officers screamed and ran from the room. All across the planet, similar reports were coming in to the alien fleet. Equipment breaking down without explanation. Soldiers too scared to do their jobs. Complete failure to find or fight. An enemy that could not be touched. Admiral Vexnari sat in his command chair and realized the terrible truth. He had brought the most powerful invasion force in galactic history to fight. An enemy that existed beyond the reach of physical weapons. The humans had not built better guns. They had made themselves into something that guns could not hurt. "Park." Jiho's voice came through the dimensional frequencies one more time. "You brought warships expecting to fight soldiers," he said calmly. "Instead, you are facing defenders who exist in the spaces between what you think is real. We are in your ships, in your computers, in your minds. We can be anywhere and everywhere at once. Your invasion has already failed, Admiral. You just do not know it yet." The transmission ended, leaving the alien fleet in stunned silence. 4. The first time in 30 years of conquest, Admiral Vexnari faced an enemy he did not know how to defeat. The ghosts of Earth were winning without firing a single shot. When the clock struck midnight on Earth, the real terror began for the alien invaders. What had been strange accidents and mysterious voices suddenly became a coordinated attack unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Vexnari was standing on his flagship's bridge, trying to make sense of the reports flooding in from across his fleet, when something impossible happened right in front of his eyes. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Morgan, was working at his station normally when he suddenly stopped moving. Morgan's head turned slowly toward the Admiral. When he spoke, his voice was completely different, softer, with a strange musical quality that alien vocal cords should not have been able to produce. "Hello," Admiral Morgan said in perfect Korean, though he had never heard that language before. "My name is Jung Ki-won. I think it is time we had a serious conversation." Admiral Vexnari stepped backward in shock. Morgan's eyes were glowing, with a soft blue light that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside his head. The lieutenant's body was there, but something else was clearly controlling it. "What have you done to my officer?" the Admiral demanded. "I have borrowed him for a moment," Jung Ki-won replied through Morgan's mouth. "Do not worry. I will give him back unharmed. But first, you need to understand something important. This is not your world to take." Before the Admiral could respond, Morgan's eyes stopped glowing, and he collapsed to the floor. When the medical team arrived, the lieutenant had no memory of what had happened. As far as he knew, he had simply fainted at his post. But across the entire alien fleet, similar impossible events were happening everywhere on the heavy cruiser, Destroyer's Edge. Captain Zelmar was walking down a familiar corridor to his quarters when he discovered that the hallway now ended in a solid wall where a door should have been. He turned around to go back, but that direction now also ended in a wall. He was trapped in a space that had somehow become a dead end, even though he had walked this same path hundreds of times before. "Help!" he shouted into his communicator. "I am trapped in Corridor 7 Alpha." But when the security team arrived at Corridor 7 Alpha, they found it completely normal, with no sign of the captain anywhere. Zulmar did not reappear until 6 hours later, stumbling out of a storage closet on the other side of the ship with no memory of how he had gotten there. Meanwhile, On Minjae was having fun with the aliens in his own special way. He could make his body become like air whenever he wanted, which meant he could walk through the thick metal walls of their spaceships as easily as walking through fog. He appeared inside the engine room of one alien destroyer. completely invisible to their sensors and cameras. The alien engineers had no idea he was there as he reached into their most important machines with his ghost-like hands and gently moved a few critical parts to places where they did not belong. The ship's engines began making terrible grinding. Noises, alarms rang throughout the vessel as power systems failed one after another. The alien engineers ran around frantically, trying to figure out what was wrong. But they could not find any problems with their equipment. Everything looked normal, but nothing worked properly anymore. Han Minjae smiled and moved on to the next ship. On the command vessel, Iron Fist. The crew began hearing voices of dead friends coming through their communication systems. Corporal Vextu, who had died in a battle 3 years ago, began pleading for help through the ship's speakers. "Help me," came Vextu's voice from every radio and computer terminal. "I am lost in the dark places between the stars. Please find me." The alien soldiers knew this was impossible. They'd seen Vextu die with their own eyes. But the voice was exactly right. Every inflection, every accent, every word he would have used. Some of the younger soldiers began crying, believing their dead friend was somehow trapped in suffering. The ship's psychologist tried to explain that it was just psychological warfare. But even he felt chills when Vextu's voice began calling his name personally through his private terminal. Things got worse when the aliens began seeing familiar faces in reflective surfaces. Soldiers would look into bathroom mirrors and see their mothers staring back at them with sad, disappointed eyes. Officers would glance at polished metal walls and catch glimpses of childhood, friends who had died years ago. Commander Helvas of the destroyer Iron Will tried to gather his remaining troops in the main hangar bay, thinking that staying together would provide safety from the psychological attacks. But when they assembled, they found Park Ji-ho waiting for them in the center of the room. He was standing there calmly, his form shifting between solid and transparent like a living hologram. When the soldiers raised their weapons, he simply smiled. "You can try to shoot me," Park said gently, "but your weapons cannot hurt something that chooses not to be completely real." Dozens of energy blasts fired at him from all directions. The beams passed through his body harmlessly and struck the walls behind him, leaving scorch marks on the metal but doing no damage to their target. "This is not warfare as you understand it," Park continued as panic spread through the alien ranks. "This is evolution. We have become something your empire was never prepared to fight." All across the fleet, alien ships began losing crew members to fear. Some soldiers locked themselves in their quarters and refused to come out. Others abandoned their posts entirely. A few even stole escape pods and fled into space rather than face another night of being haunted by enemies they could not see or touch. Admiral Aksanari found himself commanding a fleet of frightened, broken soldiers who were afraid of their own shadows. Admiral Vexnari stood completely alone on his flagship's command bridge. All his officers had either fled to their quarters in terror or were lying in the medical bay, too frightened to work. The great conqueror of 1,000 worlds found himself defeated by an enemy he could not even see properly. That was when Park Ji-ho simply appeared in front of him. There was no flash of light, no sound of teleportation, no warning at all. One moment the Admiral was staring at empty air, and the next moment a calm human man was standing there as if he had always been present. Park looked completely relaxed, like someone taking a peaceful walk in a garden rather than confronting the leader of an invasion fleet. "Your fleet is broken," Park said in a gentle voice. "Your soldiers are scared of shadows. Your machines do not work, because we exist inside them as much as around them. You cannot win this war, Admiral." Admiral Vexnari's hand moved toward the weapon on his belt, but then he stopped. What good would shooting do against someone that energy beams passed right through? He had watched his own soldiers fire at these strange humans dozens of times with no effect. "What do you want from us?" the Admiral asked. He sounded very tired, like a man who had not slept for many days. "We want to offer you the same choice we made long ago," Park replied calmly. As he spoke, other figures began to appear around him. Kim Minho materialized near the navigation station. Lee Suman became visible by the weapons console. Yunhana appeared next to the main view screen. Soon dozens of humans were standing on the bridge, all of them existing in that strange state. Between being real and being like ghosts, "We knew your empire was coming toward our world centuries ago," Suman explained. Her voice had a musical quality that seemed to speak directly inside the Admiral's mind instead of just through his ears. "We watched you conquer planet after planet, getting closer to Earth with each victory. We knew we would have to face you eventually, so we had to make a choice," added Kim Minho. "We could build bigger weapons and stronger warships to fight. You, or we, could find a completely different way to protect ourselves." Admiral Vexnari looked around at all the human faces surrounding him. They did not look angry or hateful. They seemed almost sad, like parents trying to explain something important to a confused child. "This is what you chose?" he asked, gesturing at their strange, shifting forms, "to become like ghosts?" "We chose freedom," Lee Suman replied. "Freedom from the things that make conquest possible in the first place. We cannot be killed because we exist partly outside of normal death. We cannot be conquered because we live beyond the physical world that your weapons can touch." Park Ji-ho stepped closer to the Admiral. As he moved, his ghost-like form became more solid and real-looking. "Your empire spreads across the galaxy. By using force, because you believe that physical power is the most important thing, we are offering you something much better, the chance to evolve beyond the need to control others." "You want to turn us into what you are?" Admiral Vexnari asked suspiciously. "Only if you choose it," Park said. "The process must be voluntary. We will not force anyone to change, but we wanted you to understand that there is another way to live." Yoon Hana spoke up from her position near the view screen. "Some of your soldiers have already shown interest. They have seen what we can do, and they are curious about becoming something more than just warriors." As if responding to her words, several screens around the bridge came to life, showing images from throughout the alien fleet. Admiral Vexnari could see his own crew members having quiet conversations with Earth's defenders. These were not interrogations or battles. They were peaceful discussions between beings who had found something in common. "The process is completely safe," Park assured him. "Those who choose to evolve will gain abilities beyond anything your science currently understands. They will transcend the physical limitations that have trapped your species in cycles of conquest and war. But those who prefer to remain unchanged are completely free to leave." "And if I refuse your offer?" the Admiral asked. "They knew in your fleet can leave Earth's solar system right now," Park said simply. "No pursuit, no revenge, no punishment of any kind. But you will carry the memory of what you have seen here. And when other species ask why the mighty hegemony fleet retreated from a single small planet without firing a shot, you will have to decide what truth you want to tell them." Admiral Vexnari thought about his broken fleet, his terrified soldiers, and his completely failed invasion. He thought about the reports that would have to be written, the questions that would be asked, and the shame of returning home defeated by an enemy that had never even tried to hurt them. "How many of my crew would be willing to try this evolution?" he asked quietly. Park Ji-ho smiled. "More than you might think, Admiral. Your soldiers are tired of endless wars. Many of them would welcome the chance to become something greater than conquerors." Around the bridge, the human defenders waited patiently for the Admiral's decision. They had offered him a choice between continuing the old cycle of violence and embracing something entirely new. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vexnari was not sure what the right answer was.